Back in 2003, America was joined by 48 allies as it went to war against Iraq. Today, America is almost alone in its war against Iran. So how did George Bush bring together this gigantic coalition of the willing? Well, the USAID 2004 budget is revealing 70% of the coalition states received substantial development aid. They include $574 million going to Colombia, $550 million for Afghanistan, $255 for Turkey, and so on. What happens if you don't follow the US into war? Well, Yemen found out in 1991 when they chose to vote against the American-led Gulf War. An American diplomat reportedly told Yemen's UN envoy that will be the most expensive no vote you will ever cast. 3 days later, Yemen's entire American aid budget was eliminated. It's also interesting to note that the only sub-Saharan countries to join the US in Iraq were aid recipients, and Guinea and Cameroon, who also received aid from the US, they didn't join, but they were receiving even more aid from France, who had a very strong anti-war stance. Turkey was also a very interesting case. America so desperately wanted them to attack Iraq directly, forcing Saddam into a two-front war, and thus they were incentivized with a huge $24 billion aid budget in loan guarantees. They chose not to help, and suddenly the aid vanished, devastating their economy. Their stock market plummeted 25% almost instantly, and investors feared debt default and a run on the Turkish lira. In the end, they were compelled to offer air bases and so receive some of the promised aid, but only some. Here we can see how easily an economic incentive can become a sanction when countries fail to comply. Economic dependency on the US is key. Good trade relations prior to the conflict and the prospects of further improvements increased the willingness of countries to join the coalition. This is something that post-trade war America has abandoned. Also, a potential contributor needs a proper goal and some legitimacy to persuade the domestic society to send troops, and arguably the months the US took to build a case against Iraq in 2003 was more compelling than the one against Iran in 2026. But what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below.